George, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Excellent, thanks.
Southwick Board of Selectmen meeting September 2nd of 2021 at 7 p.m. I'll call to order. We got the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We do have two selectmen, George Bertram and Emily Harrison, joining us remotely. In the meeting, just for the record. Before we start, I would ask for first a moment of silence for the 13 soldiers lost in the terrorist attack. And if I may, also ask for a moment of silence for the state trooper who lost his life this morning during the storm, and offer our condolences to his family. Okay, thank you. Up next.
Check your microphone, please.
Oh, I'm sorry, my microphone. I thought it was on. Okay, next up, presentation. I want to thank Steve for coming. It's been a long couple days and night, last night. Just to give a presentation to the board of, frankly, it was to be with what he was doing, what the town was doing leading up to the hurricane, and of course, that preparation I think helped us, especially like with the cleaning of the gutters and the grates. So, and our chief is here. Our, Chief, are you here to help with this, or?
I'm here for the vehicle replacement.
Oh, okay.
But I can help him out too.
It's been a long day for you too.
It's a long day, yeah.
Thank you, sir, for your work. You obviously were a big part of the preparation for the hurricane and this storm. Good work.
I can't see. So, thank you.
I don't know if you have to adjust. Is that all right? Is it working?
I can talk really loud too.
No. Okay.
So, we wrote up just a brief overview that was posted online, and everybody has read it. I'm not going to waste anybody's time and read that to you again. But part of this is, and I refer to a lot of that we do as this is a team effort. This isn't just me. I get to be the person to stand up here and present it. But this really, it falls on the shoulders of our police department, our fire department, our EMS, and our public works employees. They really did a lot of the heavy lifting on a lot of these items. So it's not, the credit doesn't all fall on me. I just get to be the person to stand up here and coordinate it and talk to everybody about it. So again, I think a lot of credit goes to those organizations as well for stepping up and being able to act in a professional manner and be able to get the job done and prep the town for, as far as the storm that we're talking about, we anticipated to be a direct hit of a Category 1 hurricane. We spent a lot of time working up to the Sunday with talking to different organizations from lessons learned. We did have we had a long conversation with the personnel that operate the dam. Given the past history with the tornado, we had conversations with Eversource. We worked with Eversource on Saturday to possibly bring in 2,000 crews and house them somewhere inside Southbury. Ultimately, they did not. They wanted to keep all 2,000 together, so they were trying to find another location. But we were working either putting them at the Southbury Training School or split them up at the different town parks to try and give them a place to put some trailers and put their crews to station them in and around Southbury. So those types of conversations we're not pushing out, but those are all going on in the background. We started prepping for this storm the first advisory that we got, which was Monday. I believe that was the 15th. It was the 8th named storm that came out of the Atlantic, and as we all know, the next one actually is what we're dealing with right now. So it kind of all went into the next. So part of what we went to look at was, and as you'll see the graphics, I pulled these graphics from what we get from not only the state, but we have a program that we use called HurrEvac, and that gives us a lot of the tracking for a lot of these storms. So this first graphic is of actually Fred. So the lines that you see on the left-hand side, that is the track that Fred took. And one of the big issues that we found was originally the track for Fred was supposed to come a lot closer to Connecticut. And as that moved forward, that ultimately is what pulled Henry in towards us more. So that's kind of why this slide is up there. If they had predicted that if Fred had come down more to Connecticut, it may have pushed Fred out to sea a little bit more. But if you look on the bottom right where the blue and the yellow are, so those were the first couple of days. So that was that Monday and Tuesday. And originally this storm was supposed to kind of corkscrew and go right back out to sea. And it wasn't truly projected to come towards us. Betsy, can you go to the next page? So the red dots indicate on here, this is the actual track of the storm. The red dots indicate when it turned into a hurricane. And as you can see, it came up, it hit right at the Connecticut-Rhode Island border. We know where it made landfall. The important part to look at is it kind of came right across Connecticut, circled into New York, and then came back into Connecticut and decided then to go up north. Which is not necessarily typical. Usually they come in and then come right back out. So not only did we end up with a prolonged period of rain, but we also had the effects of the storm as it went on and on. Can you go to the next one, Betsy, please? So originally so for those that watched it as closely as I did for a week and a half, Saturday morning, we woke up to a briefing that this was going to hit directly into New Haven, which put Southbury directly in the path. That really turned what we were doing for staffing wise. We were prepping to get a direct hit. The public works director and I spent multiple hours on Saturday figuring out crew staffing. Along with talking with the police department and the fire department to figure out how we were going to get people in or bring them in early and then backfill them as needed. So that's a lot of the prep work that goes into it. The PD was staffed sufficiently. The fire department staffed all of their firehouses with no problem. The ambulance was staffed with no problems. I should say both ambulance services were staffed with no problems at all. And then can you go to the next one, Betsy? So that dotted line was the projected path, and then you see what it actually did. So a lot of what we're dealing with when we look at these weather patterns is we're making our estimations based on what they're telling us is the forecasted model. And sometimes it works out, and unfortunately, sometimes it does not. We ended up with, so the other part of that is we monitor the Pomperaug River for obvious reasons. For this storm itself, the river topped out at just over 6.61 feet. And that came from the USGS site, which is right down by Ewald Park. So in contrast to that site went offline last night at 7 o'clock at 5.5 feet. When it came back online at midnight, it was already at 10 feet. So we're in a matter of 3 to 4 hours, that river went up 4 feet. So yeah, I didn't have slides for today's event, but briefly so we're not back here in 2 weeks to explain that one. We did know that we were going to get a rain event. And if anybody has a cell phone, your phone probably was blowing up as much as mine was, to the point where we couldn't make phone calls because the alerts kept coming in. So last night we ended up, I think they estimated just over 5 inches of rain in a 14-hour period. We did have flooding down on River Trail. We did have additional officers that were staffed last night once we saw what that track was going to do. One of the heaviest bands that actually caused a lot of damage in New York and New Jersey ended up going much more south than what it was. So that actually saved some of what we were supposed to get. So we did have some flooding. I'm sure everybody has seen the pictures from today. We had approximately 390 outages. Right now we're down to 195. Throughout both storms, we have been in constant contact with Eversource. We've had dedicated liaisons. Both of us are on cell phones. I made the determination for the first storm that we did not need to have our liaison sit in the room with us. It really was no benefit to the town. We had 21 outages that were served off of legs that were not in the town of Southbury. So they were either from Roxbury or Oxford. The one that we had this morning, Eversource didn't officially open their EOC, but they dedicated liaisons to us. So we've been in back and forth since 6 o'clock this morning. So we're getting hourly updates from our liaison. We're able to call in, and we've had a couple of citizens call asking if they can find us the status of a restoration. We can call them and can't get the exact time, but we try to do the best. We will the easiest thing to do is to have the residents call Eversource themselves. The liaison is not a power restoration person. They literally can look at a computer and say, yes, it's in there. They can't tell you that, when it's going to actually be turned back on. And contrary to what some people think that our job is, we don't have that button that we can just turn power back on. I wish it was that easy. So back to the first storm, there was 33 different advisories that had come out. Of those 33 advisories that we got from the National Weather Service, the state of Connecticut was sending out, I believe there was 15 to 18 updates that we get directly from the State Emergency Operations Center. And those come for every storm. They have a template that they use. We get those. Those documents are shared out through all of our emergency services. So it funnels from my office out to all of the emergency services, and Eversource gets the same one. They're embedded in the EOC as well. So we also get Eversource's reports as well. We will get the new portal that Eversource has created. Gives us the ability to generate a report on how many total outages there were and the estimated restoration time once the event is over. Today's event, due to a lot of the flooding. We had 6 block roads with trees and wires. I believe as of, I think 6 o'clock tonight, all of the block roads have been addressed. Now they're working on the restoration for the remaining, I believe there's 195 the last time I checked before the meeting. The fire department has been out most of the day setting up pumps for basements that needed some assistance. I believe they've done 4 to 5 already. We're working on number 6 right now. The police department had additional personnel on last night. And I will tell you, I don't think any of us spent any time inside of a building last night. We can show you all the wet clothes to go along with it. But it was we were out checking all of the different areas in town that we know are prone to flooding. Being new to this position, for just under a year now, we relied a lot on the fire department and the police department who've been here, and they know where things flood. And the river trail that the pictures that we were showing before, that entire road flooded in a matter of about 40 minutes. Because they were doing every half hour, they were going down and checking those roads in the low-lying areas in town. So with that, any questions?
So I think on top of it, there was a lot of other things that happened behind the scenes, which was making sure all the generators were running, make sure our fuel was topped off at Public Works before the hurricane, anticipated time of being able to get fuel or power on was I don't know, they were talking 10.
So they originally estimated 21 days. If we were gonna take a full hit the way it predicted on Saturday morning, Eversource estimated 21 days without power. So and Jeff, thank you for bringing it up. One of the things that did come up was we did have one of our officers go to every one of our gas stations. There's 6 in town to figure out where their fuel levels were. We knew where the town levels were, and we knew we were fine. We were starting to hear from our partners up in Litchfield County that they were out of gas in towns. We did find out that 4 out of the 6 were out of regular unleaded fuel. 2 of them had deliveries that were coming in Saturday night. One was going to order but didn't know when they were going to get it, and one had an employee that didn't know how to figure out what was going on. So we had to get that information on Sunday. But one of the things that happened with that was once that was brought up on our regional meetings, the state did they turned on the fuel assistance, and so they had tankers standing by if they needed to bring fuel into gas stations for different towns if this was going to be a major event.
So there was in some social media areas, there's questions about the fuel in Southbury, and I felt that a report should become and how that's handled, and there's a lot goes on leading up to that storm, and I think it's for the board here and for the public to understand the complexities. It's not just a matter of cleaning the grates out on the roads, which is a big plus, which the highway department was doing, but then the chainsaws are checked. The gas is made sure that there's gas for the chainsaws, everything's up and running. Are all the machines running? Because we're going to, though we know they're running, they check them over, make sure they're ready to go. So there's a lot of, it was a great dress rehearsal, but last night was not so much of a dress rehearsal, and I think we got pretty fortunate. So any questions of Steve?
Does Eversource have a projection for the people currently out of power?
Unofficially, I can tell you afterwards. They're unofficially they're hoping to have everything on tonight.
So they haven't set their townwide.
Correct. They have, yeah. So completely unofficially, they are they're hoping to get everybody on tonight. Depending on there's a lot of factors that go into that. And I think part of that is from the public side is understanding that in order to turn things back on, sometimes we have to turn things off. And that's a key component to the safety of the line crews. So they may get to a section of pole, they need to turn that leg off to be able to fix and then turn stuff back on. So you may not be out of power because the tree took it down. You may be down because Eversource actually turned you off in order to get the circuit back up and running. So that's one of those kind of a PR piece. So the other aspect of that is the municipal hub that Eversource rolled out for municipal leaders and emergency management directors. So we can log in and be able to see essentially live what our liaisons are looking at. And we can put our own tickets in now. So if we know that there's an area and dispatch is overwhelmed with phone calls from the EOC or from my desk or wherever I have my cell phone, or Jeff has the ability to do it, and Jerry, our public works director, has the ability to do it, we can put in those addresses, and we can also designate new critical facilities. One of the things that we looked at when I got here in September was the Eversource list of critical facilities in town did not have any of the fire departments none of their firehouses were listed as critical facilities. So one of the things that we did was we revamped that to include all of our long-term care facilities, obviously our town buildings, police department, the fire departments. We've reached out to both Stop and Shop and ShopRite as the two big food vendors in town. I had meetings with them during the week, so if they did lose power, what was their plan to bring to either bring in generators or do what with their food so it didn't spoil. And I will tell you, both have plans in place, so they were prepared to do what they needed to do as well. The health department reached out to all of the restaurants and food businesses. I believe it was Saturday morning, and gave them the directions for if they lost power, what they need to do to get everything up and running, and how to make those notifications over at the health department. So those are things, as Jeff said, that happen kind of behind the scenes, but it takes a whole group of people to get that all going. And I am happy to say that the team that we have, and the last 2 weeks have proven it. The men and women at the police department, at the fire department, at EMS, and Public Works are a fabulous team to work with. And I hope we didn't give Jeff any more gray hairs.
I just stay out of the way.
And one of that is we were able to Jeff and I can pick up the phone and I can give him an update of what exactly is going on just about at any point during any one of these incidents, which is good.
Any other questions? Thank you, Steve, for your report, and thank you for the what turned out to be go home, get some sleep.
We're gonna work on it.
Thanks.
Steve, I do have a few questions for you.
Oh, Emily, you have questions? Go ahead.
Yep. I was just curious. It seemed like there's a lot of communication coming out around Henri, but and maybe it's just my scope of sitting here. The hit with Ida seemed to be a lot worse. What was the difference between the communication coming out from the town listserv for Henri and the choice not to do that for Ida?
So Ida, we anticipated a lot of rain. We didn't necessarily anticipate the amount of rain that we really got. The first update that we got from the state was, I believe it was, and I'd have to go back and check my email, but I believe it was yesterday morning. And we knew we were going to get quite a bit of rain. We didn't know exactly how much. And as the day progressed yesterday, as we were monitoring it, it became more of an issue in a much faster time frame than we anticipated at that point. And to take that information and be able to push it out, it would be old information by the time we got it out to everyone that we needed to. And the alerts that were coming out at the state level and through any of the weather apps, everything else was saying the same information that we were going to push out. So I had made the decision that if we're going to just keep sending alert after alert after alert, after a while people stop paying attention to them. With the first storm, we had a week of leading up to it, and there was a lot of uncertainty that went into that, which we wanted to kind of get out in front of. We knew we were going to get rain with Ida. I don't think we fully anticipated the full amount of rain that we got, and to the extent of the bands as it hit. We did monitor that. One of the things that we did look at was once it did hit, again, if you have a cell phone, there was alert after alert after alert after alert. We very easily could have sent one out, Emily, but it would have been lost, I think, with all of the other ones. We did have officers going to all of our low-lying areas, and we spent most of the day today working on damage assessments and figuring out where, getting people that were flooded, either under, the flood waters at least from River Trail this morning. Within an hour of that road being flooded, it almost went back in. So we were able to get back into those areas and help the residents down there. So it wasn't that we didn't want to. I think it was more of we didn't fully anticipate the amount of rain that we actually ended up with. And to send the alerts out at midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning we would have lost the effect to get that information out. And by the time everybody woke up in the morning, the event was over. It stopped raining about 4 a.m. So timing-wise, it just didn't make sense to start flooding everybody's inbox.
Steve, I think from just the devil's advocate, food for thought for the next time, and I appreciate what you're saying on information being old, but I think if we were to send something out just to show visibility from the town that we're aware of the situation and we're on top of things, and two, for those that were afflicted to know where they can go for resources for potable water, internet, just those consistent reminders. I know it's the same information we push out every time, but I think something like that, even after the event, can be useful. And I had another question for you, and it's totally escaping my mind now. So, the flooding that occurred by Kmart Plaza and Playhouse Corner in between there, I know that that's a state road. Are we aware of what happened and are on kind of working with the state in order to, have a solution so that doesn't happen again? I don't think I've ever seen anything like that in my lifetime in Southbury. So just curious what's going on there.
So ultimately, for those who didn't see the pictures that I know the police department posted, I think Brian posted some on the at Main and Main, we had about 3 to 4 feet of water last night. What ended up happening was the causeway, which is just north of that intersection, was blocked with debris. And the amount of water that was coming down off of there literally came up over the top of the road along with all that debris and silt and flooded the entire essentially that intersection. So it goes back to making sure that those waterways are clear of debris. Most of that debris did not come, it wasn't there. So it came down from, as everything was flowing. We watched the river today. There was full-on trees and logs and everything else flowing down the Pomperaug River that ultimately is going to end up at the Stevenson Dam at some point. So part of that is making sure that the known waterways and the property owners that are responsible for them, keep them as clear as possible. I don't think it wasn't the property owner's issue. I think it was a combination of the amount of rain, the time frame that it rained. We're talking 5 to 6 inches of rain in a 14-hour period. That just combined with the amount of debris that ended up collecting in there. I know the fire chief had posted a video. It was like a whirlpool of water coming down off there once we were able to get over to that causeway. And it receded just as fast as it flooded too. Unfortunately, there was 2 cars that paid the price. But I will use this opportunity to tell everyone, if whoever's listening, please do not drive through standing water or running water. Unfortunately, we found out exactly what happens when that happens with the Connecticut State Police today. But it also, your car is going to float, and it's not going to turn back on, which the gentleman last night was very understanding.
So the good news too, I think, is we've replaced a couple of, there was always the controversy, the question about when we replaced, why did we put a bridge in instead of two culverts? And obviously, the difference between a large bridge, I know I checked a few of the bridges on, of course, East Flat Hill, there was some debris there, but most of it was going through the bridge because of the size. And so, in Spruce Brook also did, which was, this is probably the biggest storm, Spruce Brook. So getting away from those culverts and going to a bridge on a cost factor over time, it's cheaper to do per year to do the bridges, which is a financial thing. But now we're seeing that by not having a restricted, 3 round culverts or 4, which may cost less, they're not catching that debris that they would, that a bridge doesn't catch that debris, which is, there's no way to
No.
protect
So,
against
Emily,
it.
just so you know, and we don't, and unfortunately, we couldn't get close enough to take pictures, but I believe there was at least 2 or 3 full-size trees that were down in that culvert, or in that spillway there. But again, the Connecticut DOT came out. They had a loader out there scraping the road so that we can get it back open. And they were out there most of the day today with street sweepers. And if you drive down that, you still see all the debris that's kind of in the medians.
They were on 172 also today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Steve.
No problem.
Jeff, I had one question. It's George Bertram.
Go ahead.
And I'm just wondering what weather forecasts you were looking at, Steve, because everyone I looked at was predicting we'd get hit with 4 to 6 inches of rain in a short period of time. Did you have a different forecast that you were looking at?
No, so we were looking at the same one the state uses. They send them down. I think it wasn't so much the amount of rain, it was the intensity and the timing. So when we talk about the first storm, we had 3 to 4 inches of rain over an extended period of time versus 5 inches of rain in a very short period of time. So that's with the emergency flash flooding, which was the first time in the state of Connecticut that they actually pushed that alert out last night. That was one of the that's what caused more of the issues than the actual amount of rain. So it was the time period and the amount and the intensity of the rain when it came.
Yeah, I've never gotten so many flash flood warnings on my phone. I just kept coming up like every 5 minutes. I get a different one. It was crazy.
Okay, anything else?
Thanks again, Steve.
Thank you, Steve. Okay, next up is public comment. We limit it to 2 minutes. If you could let us know who you are, if there's any public comment.
Good evening. My name is Palin Smith. I'm from Woodbury. I'm here tonight not as a lawyer, but to advocate for Playhouse Corner, to keep it like it used to be, ruly. I got the rules. I have a list of the rallies that I've held this year. I've held 102 across the state of Connecticut, mostly Trump rallies. February 15th, President's Day, no problems. March 6th, remember the Alamo, with horses, 2 horses. March 20th, first day of spring. April 17th, 2 days before Patriots' Day. A classroom, the difference and the similarities between Patriots' Day and the Alamo, virtually identical. 2 horses. And then June 14th, Flag Day, just happens to be President Trump's birthday. So that's what we had. And then, of course, Independence Day on July 4th, 2 horses again from Dorothy from down in Oxford. They're beautiful animals. Never had a problem. And the one day I wasn't in town, it was July 24th. I was in Canton having a rally. I happened to meet President Trump's cousin up there. I had a rally planned for July 31st with a concert pianist on Playhouse Corner, Kai Kim from Danbury. She's a magnificent pianist. She was going to bring her keyboard and play for us, but I had to cancel that because I didn't want her to have to confront any kind of bad news or harshness. She's not used to being in that kind of climate. So after July 14th, after 102 rallies just in this year, I'm not counting last year, and how many dozens and dozens of Playhouse Corner through the years, I had to create a list of rules, my Palin Smith rules for Trump rallies, a gathering of families, a friendly gathering of families. Number one.
That's 2 minutes.
That's 2 minutes. Can I just finish the list?
No.
Okay, well, here it is.
2 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does she have 2 minutes?
If you want to speak for 2 minutes, if you give your name.
Yes. She just read the names on the list.
Okay. And I participated in those rallies,
Your name?
and I was quite shocked
You
at
need
the...
to give your name.
Oh, my name is Vivian Michaels. I'm a Southbury resident. And I participated in Palin's rallies. And the rally on the 24th was not set up by Palin and our group. It was a different person. And I was just as shocked and horrified to see the swastika symbols. And I agreed with the Board of Selectmen condemning that. Anyway, at Palin's rallies, we keep off the street. We don't want to block traffic or cause anything. No alcohol, no profanity, no targeting vehicles with, what is this, individual vehicles with the bullhorns, and no symbols of hate. So I'm not quite sure what the status is of Southbury Playhouse Corner is now. I stopped to read the sign tonight, and it says that, you know, the views of the, of anybody who meets there do not reflect the views of the people who own the plaza. But I'm not sure if rallies can be held there anymore. I know Justice Southbury meets there, and we have held off on meeting there, you know, in light of that bad incident, because we don't want to be identified with them. So maybe you can clarify what the status is of Playhouse Corners and the rallies. That's all I have to say.
We don't comment during public comment.
Oh, you don't?
No.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
anyway, we run a decent rally. We sing patriotic songs, and we support the candidates that we like. And we do not support any symbols of hate. Just wanted to make that clear.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay.
How you doing? John Deal. And first quick comment. I appreciate everything the EMS and emergency services have done over the storm. One thing we would request is that the residents be included with a code red report, and maybe just a notification. We felt that during a hurricane that we weren't really kept abreast while surrounding communities were getting those code red reports. But I have a different subject I wanted to chat about. I got a little story. I was standing at the Southbury Strawberry Festival, and it was a pleasure. I got a little bit of an education from the first selectman, Manville. It was before I committed to run, and maybe it was the inspiration of what made me want to run. I hear that people know that the mill rate did not increase. Residents don't realize that this is not the whole story. We know that the housing market has done well. We know that values are up. Higher house values and an equal mill rate means higher taxes. I started asking around. Sure enough, many stories about assessment increases, therefore tax increases. Friends tell me that they have tax bills that are in excess of $1,300 and more. And I ask why. Southbury has a strategic plan and other studies that suggest sustainable growth. A history lesson shows that that's not what we do. In 1991, Southbury was #1 with similar towns, and in 30 years, while others had increases of 150%, 132%, or 120% in their grand rate, Southbury increased at 13%. And in the last 3 years, those same towns increased 2.6%, 2.89%, and 6.36%, while Southbury increased at 1.76.
That's 2 minutes, sir. Thank
When is
you.
it our turn?
It's
Southbury needs a
2 minutes, sir.
champion,
Thank you.
not a caretaker. Thank you.
Okay. Any other public comment? Any other public comment? Any other public comment? Hearing none. We'll go on to reports, which you have in your packet. Announcements and correspondence. And then we move on to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Made and second. Any discussion?
I just have one comment, Jeff. There was one of the resignations that was in there from an alternate on one of our commissions referenced the fact that, they didn't feel fulfilled in their role as planning. They did all the work. They read all the documents, and they never sort of felt that they were called upon to participate. Asked us to just look at the role of alternates on commissions. I think we've heard that a little bit before in my 6 years sitting here. I do think it's something it might be something that we want to talk to chairs of commissions about, just to ensure that all of the alternates on those roles are feeling fulfilled and satisfied. We are a town that runs on volunteers. We want to make sure that, there'll always be those who don't feel fully fulfilled. But I just think we should acknowledge that, and we appreciate all those who step up to serve, and sorry to see those go, and certainly want to make sure people have a good experience. So that's it.
Just want to, on that note, just let you know that, of course, I think we all know this. Alternates are always welcome to comment
Right.
on the projects, weigh in,
Just can't
discuss, and haven't been on a commission. The only problem they have is they can't vote, and that's understandable. But of course, they're very valued as alternates because I want to kind of say, like, the training you get prepares you ready, because sometimes an alternate is new on the commission, and it takes time to understand the commission. But we certainly value them, but that's kind of, I feel bad that they feel that way. But it is valued because the input and an open discussion, sometimes what you think makes sense as an alternate is explained, well, this is why we can't do those things that way. But yeah, we'll make sure.
I
Anybody
had some
else?
similar concerns on that resignation as well. And the other piece that was concerning to me was the request to attend virtually and being told that they couldn't accommodate that when we so clearly can. So perhaps it's worthwhile to talk to the commission to ensure that they understand how the technology works. So if something arises in the future, they can accommodate that request.
Yeah, and just for the record, we could put it out, we'll put it out to all the commissions that, if somebody has a question like that, and they bring it to my attention that they're trying to get some kind of training, we have a lot of different training available. They can just call the first selectman's office, and we'll arrange or get that done for them.
That's great.
Okay? Anything else? Call the vote, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? It carries. Okay, next is the bids and procurement, townwide tree removal services. Can I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
That might have been.
Any discussion on it? Okay, I'll call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. Abstentions? And it carries. Motion on the vehicle replacement. Can I have a approval?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second?
Thank you. Emily? Any discussion on it?
I'll just, I know that Brian's here for this, so I don't know if you wanted to say anything, or we're just here to watch.
See how it
Make sure-
plays out. Thank you for
Just want to see-
thank you for your support for everything.
I think silence would be good now.
Silence is good. Yeah. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. None of these are because they got flooded out yesterday.
Okay, and if there's no other discussion, I'll call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? And it carries. Minutes, July 15th, 2021. Can we take these together? And July 28th, 2021, I'm sorry.
Motion to approve the minutes for July 15th and July 28th.
I'll second.
Made and seconded. Any discussion on the minutes?
I would request that we do not do this jointly so that George and I can recuse ourselves from the July 28th special meeting minutes. Otherwise, we can't vote at all.
That's true.
Okay,
Withdraw my motion.
all right.
So I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of July 15th, 2021.
Second.
Okay, made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? It carries.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the July 28th, 2021 meeting.
Do I have a second, Jason? Thank you. Okay, any discussion on the meeting, on the minutes?
Just noting that I'm going to be recusing myself from this vote as I wasn't in attendance.
Okay,
Same here, me.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 2 abstentions? And it passes. We have no unfinished business. Next up, Valentine Park Pool and Bathhouse Design. We brought that to your attention because there was a meeting out in the field with this group of people. Mike, you were unable to get there. And there's a proposal you've read, by this company to create conceptual designs, and it's basically $50,000. Dan is not here to discuss with us tonight. I think we shouldn't be doing anything until he's available for us, but I just wanted to bring it to the board to open up a discussion of where we're going to proceed. There's a lot of information out there about what pools do cost, what pools don't cost, what we hear in the media, and whether we're going to, is there something we want to pursue? Mike?
I think that, thanks, Jeff. I think that I agree. I think we should wait till Dan comes in to hear directly from him, his point of view on it. But I do think that for the public to know, this came out of the exploration that Dan has taken the lead on for the town of the Middletown pool, the discussion we've had of them publicly stating in the press that they're building a complex for $2 million. And it does seem from Dan's communication to us that this group, which is part of which is that group, that they certainly do believe that the building, which was one of the issues here, could be renovated potentially and not necessarily have to knock it down and start over. So I just think it's worth exploring. I'm eager to hear from Dan directly when he's back and to see if we can move forward. There's a piece of me that wishes you could look backwards, and I said, I wish we started here in some regards, that, we looked at this in more detail and made an investment in doing it. But I will tell you that my instinct, unless Dan feels strongly otherwise, my instincts will be that we should pursue this. I want to have a conversation with Dan a little more. I wasn't able to make it out that day to the pool, but I think, I was very excited when he sent through that email that this group does think that they can do something with the building. So
I'll just mention the sort of genesis of it. The whole Middletown discussion came up.
You
This
go.
thing.
Hello.
There you go.
the whole Middletown discussion came up at our meeting a couple of times, and, you know, we asked Dan to reach out to the folks who did that, and that's what he did. Just for the public's benefit, so I was at the meeting and George was at the meeting, but for the public's benefit, all members of the board were invited, and we were gonna work it out, you know, based on scheduling, so we didn't have a quorum there, but, George and I were available, so we were there and attended with them, Dan, and Claire, and I thought it was a very informative meeting. It was productive. These guys were helpful. They had a lot of interesting ideas, and they talked to us about, what they did in Middletown, how they went about it in Middletown, and we asked them at the meeting, okay, well, put something together for us that we can look at as to what, you would, essentially what they did in Middletown was they did some conceptual designs, a couple of options, at the front end to come up with ultimately what ended up being the Middletown project. And that's something similar to, like, I guess, the proposal they gave to us. As part of that discussion, we did ask for some additional information from them. Like, I'd still like to see the, we can all look up what's available publicly currently, the final plans for Middletown. But I'd like to see what they presented to Middletown on the front end when they were hired, and their initial designs and their cost estimates and all that. And I think that's sort of still in flux a little bit. So before I think it's certainly worth continuing the discussion and pursuing and whatnot, but we certainly do need to hear from Dan, and I would like to have some additional information from these folks.
Okay. Anybody, any of the other selectmen want to?
No, I look forward to hearing more about it. And, hearing about it from Dan next time.
So, to your point, Mike, I just, sometimes, and it's not to be critical, but when this all started out, I wanted, for the public's, with this, we had pool meetings. We originally were looking at Valentine and a replacement of the pool, because the history is, we knew we were having a problem. We looked for a solution, which was a liner, got the liner here, everything was supposed to work. And when we opened up to do the project, we found that it wasn't possible because some structural defects in there. So we did go, we said, okay, let's see about a pool. And we did meet with our, with the swim program, with Park and Rec director, there was a group. And we said, well, what are we looking for? And the John Michaels good, better, best. What are we, what is it we're looking for, and what would service and how it would be? And the good, better, best was everything from snack bars to bleachers, zero entry, water,
Bike pad,
stuff, splash and water work things. And the companies were there that were listening, started suggesting, or saying that this was a project that would be, we heard, I don't have the numbers in front of me. The range was, I think there was one of 6 or 7 million. It was like, whoa. And what's the cost? And they were giving estimates. And then, just for the record, I know there's a lot of talk out there. I knew that there was an option of which included good, better, best, and extras. There was an option. Not promoting it, but would it work and give the good, better, the best of what we were looking for? So I think we were looking in that direction. That's where it started, was how much is it going to be for the pool here? And when you say, conceptual designs, there were some designs. We want X swim lanes, we want zero entry, and we want this. And then, of course, when we put all those things together, the problem was, or one of the issues is, the square footage of the pool became so big that the bathhouse became the additional, and then that pushed into the parking lot. So there was a lot of moving things. We were, in the beginning, we did that, and then we explored an option which was not the pool. So we were working in that direction. What we're gonna be looking at here is, do we want to do the conceptual part of this and how far? And I think that would be a good discussion with Dan.
Good. Thanks, Jeff.
Anybody else? Okay. I don't want to, I find I'm moving quickly. George and Emily, you're out there, and I don't want to, if you're unmuting, if you okay with the pool, new business? I would assume so. Okay. First Selectmen's report. Steve Schnell gave his report on the hurricane from the other day. Frankly, I think in this rain event, Southbury did pretty well. I was getting a little nervous when I had to start taking my pool and pumping it out. But the flooding, frankly, was not as bad as I had expected or thought we would see in the morning. We did pretty well. And we are cleaning up from it. I want to thank everyone for their hard work during these two events. And we will get what damage we have back in shape over time. I do want to mention to the board, I was asked by the town of Bethlehem selectmen. They are in need. Their over-the-fence mower is broken, and it's going to take some time to fix. They're borrowing one from one town for a little while, and we will be, when they need this, after they get done with their cleanup, I'll be sending a mower up to Bethlehem so they can use it. We have 3. We're okay. I want to just let you know, part of my reason is I remember that during the tornado, Bethlehem helped us out immensely. They came down, they were here for us, and we want to make sure we maintain that relationship between each other, making sure that our towns are all okay. I don't think the board would have any problem with that. Just a reminder, ARAP meeting is September 7th, coming up at 6 p.m. There'll be introductions, suggestions. We'll go over broad range, and we'll start that moving forward. I don't know if I should notice that there could be a quorum at the meeting. Maybe I should.
But you could put it like, you could do it like you do the Board of Finance.
We'll put it on. Okay, make sure we do everything right. Of course, the cannabis public hearing is on implementing the moratorium, September 8th. I think that's at 7:30, if you would like to attend. Also, I spoke to Mike a little bit. It has been a couple busy days. Mike and I are still working on the Community Relations Task Force, and we're probably going to meet to figure out, we'll talk to do some, maybe get some interviews going, and come up with a group. Looks like a pretty
Thank you to all those who applied.
I mean, they're all good. It's just, I mean, I want to say, again, it's like, okay, we have to pick someone, and I think that's, we'll get there. Any questions of me? We have reports from liaisons. George, do you have any reports?
Well, there's been a lot of meetings. Strategic Plan Commission met on August 19th. They had a pretty good number of people there. It wasn't everybody, but they had most of the people there. And they discussed their projects and priorities. Nothing really to report out of that, except that the question of what happened to the questions that we sent up to the state level on the Southbury Training School. It's beginning to look like that the first selectman's office might have to be the organization that reaches out to get that update from them, if there is one. I keep getting asked about it at SPC meetings, and I've reached out to certain people that I know, and I'm not getting any feedback, so I've kind of given up on that from what I can do. So I'm going to throw it back to you. There was a IT steering committee meeting on August 11th, and There's a lot of discussion there, nothing substantive that really we need to concern ourselves with. We did talk about some new security measures that Dave Richards has put in place, and I certainly will not go into details of any of that in a public forum. But apparently he has upgraded our security, our cybersecurity, which is important because cybersecurity insurance, the cost is skyrocketed. And some towns can't even get cyber insurance anymore because they don't have the necessary measures in place to provide protections adequate that the insurance companies are willing to cover them. Fortunately, with the efforts of Dave and the rest of the IT committee, they've been able to get things to where we can get insurance. But there's a lot of towns in our size range that are not able to get insurance. So we're a step ahead in that regard. Nothing much on road study. There's a meeting coming up on that, I think, next week. Cellular mobile, there's nothing new to report. The Edgewood project we've heard about. Energy Task Force, there's been meetings on that too. They talk about a lot of different things. Nothing that I could really say is important to bring to the board at this time. So that's it for me.
Thank you. Selectman Betty.
EDC did try to meet last week. You may have seen in the paper that we didn't have a quorum. There was a brief informal discussion with the director about some things that are going on in town. There was obviously a reporter in attendance. The senior commission did not meet in July or August. They will be meeting in September. Neither tax incentive nor ARPA met since our last meetings. As Jeff mentioned, ARPA, or the American Rescue Plan Act Task Force, is meeting next week for the first time. And I'd like to, again, encourage townspeople to bring us your ideas. We've gotten a number of them via email already. This is a process that's going to take many months, if not years. And it's very important that we hear from the town. It's a lot of money. It's a great opportunity for us to invest in our town with federal dollars. IPOC did meet. We had our quarterly meeting. All three funds are doing very well. No major changes. Our next meeting is when we annually look at what is called the investment policy statements, or the IPS, and these are basically the outline of what we're trying to do in each fund and how we're going to do it. And over the years, those have been changes that have been made to it have been relatively minor tweaks, but it is something that we do annually to make sure that we are protecting the town's money. And that's all I got.
Okay. Selectman Bucksbaum.
Historic buildings met at the beginning of August. I was away. Historic tree meets next week at the same time as our ARPA task force, so that will be difficult. But LEPC met at the beginning of August. We heard from Steve tonight, and he actually hit on some of the things that we talked about, but like actually in action, about storm preparation, about Eversource's new municipal hub. Things like that. He's working on the emergency operations plan. He's working with Josh Smith from Region 15 on that as well. He anticipates that there'll be a presentation from our interim health director at the next meeting, which will be in November. And at the meeting, there was discussion with our public works director about setting up a drill for emergency response, storm preparation, and whatnot in the coming months. And I anticipate that will still happen, but we did a lot of that for the hurricane, and it actually will be helpful looking back on that as we prepare for the next event. And I'll just echo Justin's comments. We have the ARPA task force meeting on Tuesday, and as I said at the beginning, this is like very preliminary stage one of a lengthy process. We've received, I don't know, close to 100 comments from the public that was emailed out to all of us. And I'd encourage the public to continue to email comments. There'll be public comment on the agenda on Tuesday. Come, let us hear from you. This is going to evolve. We're all going to learn about needs of the town. We're all going to learn more and educate the town as to what we can spend it on, and then spend the next period of months, honing in on what the best use of these funds would be for the communities. We really need to include and hear from the community and all the stakeholders about that process. So I encourage people to pay attention and come out and let us know what you think.
And I just want to mention, my indications is that Southbury, from some of the COG and some of the others, that we're already ahead of, like, we're doing the right thing, and now the others have said, Southbury's already reaching out, Southbury's already scheduling these things. So, yeah, I mean, I know people this is going to take a long time. It's not something we're just going to put out there quickly. It's a significant amount of money, and we want to make sure it's sustainable. There's a lot of criteria with what they're trying to accomplish with this money, not just short-term goals but long-term, and that's going to be the difficult part of it. Selectman Harrison?
Library Board did not meet in August. We'll meet again in September. EMS committee did meet last week. However, they, I believe, will have sent the annual report over to you, Jeff, for review. And there is some concern over the EMS plan and where that stands, and making sure that that gets put in. Additionally, on some concerns on communication back from your office and IT to help with some other issues that I'll be in touch on.
Okay, Selectman Rosen.
Well, I wasn't able to attend the last Parks and Rec Commission. Just some quick updates is summer camp program went very well. There was a waiting list for the main camp program and the teen travel escape program. One learning that did come out was they were using the Parks and Rec Senior Services building as sort of a home base for summer camp, and it wasn't big enough. And they learned that, so Michael is going to look at restructuring for next year, and potentially looking at going back to one of the schools and seeing if we can use one of the schools. Youth basketball registration's open, and we have a new recreation supervisor starting, I think, in the right after Labor Day, thereabouts.
Yeah.
So that position's been filled. If people don't know, our prior person left just before camp and pool was opening. So the staff did an extraordinary job for that, and we thank them. Planning has been meeting. I was actually in there right before. Had a couple special meetings about the plan of conservation and development work, and the community questionnaire that's going to be going out, working with Malone McBroom, or the former McLone and McBroom, whatever they're called now. Actually, I have a copy of the most recent draft in front of me here. I'm sure eventually will make its way to us as a group to look at. But I think they've been great, and I think as I was leaving, we were about halfway through sort of what was the second draft of the questionnaire at this point, and I'm pretty sure they're going to button it up, and the next draft will be a draft that the commission will sign off on, in terms of their feedback, and continue to move that process forward. I think it's good, and we're making some changes to the last questionnaire that I think the group feels good about. Region 15 schools are open.
The kids are there.
The kids are there. I no longer have children in the Region 15 schools, which is hard to believe, but certainly two of my colleagues here do. And kudos to them for continuing to really, I think, set an example for the state, our administration, our faculty, our staff, et cetera, for having in-person learning with masks on as the state requires, following the science, and really, I think kudos most importantly to our children, to all the kids in Southbury and certainly Middlebury, but to all of our children for being part of it. And I think sometimes it's the adults sometimes that complain more than the kids, and the kids are just glad to be together in person and learning. And I think that's great and a real testament to our community. So.
Okay.
That's it. Oh, one other note. Just so everyone knows, I've been asked by Kevin Bielmeyer to represent the board as part of the sustainable CT certification and the points. There's this whole point system in sustainable CT. There are some action areas for the town to earn points in. The first action area is equity. And one of the actions is to have a cohort from the town. So it's going to be part of our sustainability group already, plus me representing the Board of Selectmen. You have to take these trainings that Sustainable CT offers. So he's asked me to sit in with him and others on some of those trainings. So I'm going to gladly certainly do that. I'm glad to see the town moving forward on that front. And also on LinkedIn, I saw a local company. I'm not going to name names yet. A local company with a guy I know through my professional network post that they were looking to move to a new town to grow their expanding company. They're currently in Shelton, and they had a poll that included other in towns they should consider, and it was Norwalk and Stamford, and I said you should consider Southbury. And I reached out to my friend, and I copied, and I wrote, "Am I right?" And I copied Kevin Bielmeyer, and Kevin had a conversation with him, and they were willing to talk. And they are now considering Southbury as potentially one of the places that they may move to. And I said, we're right off of 84. We're easy access to New York City and easy access to Boston. We've got a tremendous workforce here, and we have the desire. And Kevin jumped on it and was great. And I think they're supposed to come to town in early September to take some tours of open stuff. So I encourage all of my colleagues, LinkedIn, look for those, answer the questions, help Kevin, because it's a good thing. But real kudos to Kevin for jumping on it and moving. And he sent such a great email to the guy, so really good.
It's a good town to live in. It's a
Yep.
good town to work in.
Great town to work in.
So, it's a good thing. Hopefully we can attract businesses based on our our financial stability that's been put in place. And, it is a good town to raise a family. So not that we know. You sell that every day, don't you?
Oh, yes. Still selling.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstentions, and we're adjourned. Thank you.
Bye, Emily. Bye, George.